Hey, I'm the pickle in the middle. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, guys.
For all of you out there, you are watching Talent Talk. This is John L. Scott Talent Group. We are here to help you understand what's going on in real estate. On Mondays, we bring you a special guest that is affiliated to real estate because we want to give you as much knowledge, understanding of what's going on. So we are really excited to introduce somebody today, right?
Oh yeah, we love this. We love this guest so dearly. And the theme of today, I guess when we're talking about real estate, what is real estate?
Relationships.
Yes. And we have I don't want to call him the king of relationship, but he's really dear to our heart when it comes to relationships in real estate. And
well, he is a vice president of relationships.
Exactly. So excited about that. How'd you guys do? So this has been like just kind of backing up a little bit. This was like the best weekend ever because it is the best weather that we have had in the history of, I feel like in the history of COVID, or I don't know. This has just been an amazing few days. And so I'm just soaking up the sunshine. Can you tell I got a tan?
Yes,
I wasn't
absolutely.
going to say anything, but I was like, I noticed just a
little bit. I got a little bit of shine right here, but
I was going to say, I wasn't going to call it a shine. I was going to call it a glisten.
Oh man.
No, I actually, thanks to your husband, went out and played first nine holes that I've played in probably a year and a half, close to 2 years. And it was awesome. Did I play well? Absolutely not. But did I enjoy myself? Absolutely so.
Yeah, he said he had fun, and I was like, okay, good.
You know what? And I left the golf course mostly intact, so I thought that was a win for me.
Did you lose your balls?
Wow, that's interesting.
Come on now.
I only lost one.
Jurgen. All right, moving along. We have a trivia question, don't we, of the day?
Yes.
We do, and our trivia question always kind of leads us into our guest and gives you a sense of what we're talking about. So our trivia question for today is 88% of clients say that at the end of the transaction say that they would use their broker again. What percent actually do? I think we got a couple multiple choice guesses. 12%, 25%, 55%, or 40% of clients actually use their real estate broker again. What's your guess?
You know, that's interesting. We're going to share the answer with you, but this all gears into a relationship, right? Because when we have this wonderful experience with our clients, and it's like a marriage, and of course, relationship is amazing. And at the end of the day, the clients say, hey, I would absolutely, use my real estate agent again because they're like family and I trust them. And then what happens at the end? What do they normally do? So we'll see. We'll share the answer.
Well, I know you say that they go down a little bit, but how much?
Right.
From 88 to
Donna says D.
Did she? I didn't see that.
Oh, you know what? Oh, you know what? Well, I'm clairvoyant.
Hey, good morning, Donna. And I think she's just guessing the first letter of her name. I mean, she made it easy on the guess. I didn't even get a selection of G, but I'm gonna make mine up then.
Yeah, totally. I think it's time to bring our guest on. Totally.
Absolutely. So who we have today is someone who has been, since we've been a part of the John L. Scott family, has been a very dear friend, somebody that we look up to a lot. And when we talk about relationship, his title is actually the vice president of ultimate client relationship. It's not about a name and a number, but it's about who people actually are and getting an authentic connection with people so that they know how you are and how you're showing up in their lives. He's a very accomplished person even outside of real estate, with a phenomenal music career conducting, and just we couldn't be more excited, happy, honored, thrilled to introduce to you Emmanuel Fonte. Good morning.
Good morning. Wow.
Good morning, Emmanuel.
Thanks, Steve. I need to have that intro like every Monday because I feel amazing. You guys are so kind.
Can I just program that into your alarm clock?
That was
So the moment you wake up in the morning, that's what you hear?
Yeah, because real estate's not narcissistic enough.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I cover my office in mirrors. Hi, me.
Oh my God. Have I got a house for you? Oh my gosh.
Oh, and Donna says hello, Emmanuel.
Hi, Donna with a D.
Yes. I'm not sure how else you would spell it though, like a silent K.
Well, in French, which is my first language, there's lots of words you don't pronounce. We do.
Very nice. And Emmanuel originally is a neighbor from the north, so just in case you didn't know. Actually, you know, it was kind of a brief introduction and really focus on what we see of you as a person, but also you have experience in a bunch of different things. Who are you kind of on that experiential level?
Well, as a musician, so I started studying music seriously at 14, which is actually late for a serious classical musician, but I was lucky enough to be raised in environments where I just had lots of opportunities. So my first label, if you want, would be musician, human first, hopefully bring something to the universe of kindness and compassion and love. But as a profession or a vocation calling, musician first, which actually I think really helps to Davina's point about relationships, because musician's first job is not to make noise, it's actually to listen. And so being trained to listen and not to make noise is really an unfair advantage when it comes to sales. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard a musician's first job is to listen. I always think about a musician's first job is to entertain or to emote or
listen.
Interesting.
One of my degrees, I have a master's in chamber music, and depending on the size of the ensemble, you may not have a conductor. The only way to play together, both rhythmically, musically, phrasing, and in tune, is by listening. If there's no one, like, so everything from tempo to breathing, your most important skill set is listening.
That's amazing. I never even thought about that because you're not a solo player, and the only way to make music together is to be in key and tune with everyone.
Correct.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, Davina.
Yeah, that's good. And you know what, Emmanuel, I just in that, you know, listening and in that tune, because I used to play music and it was very long ago, and we played in a I've played in a like an orchestra, and I've been in a quartet before, and it's so important to listen because if you have to hear the tune and the tempo, you're right. And I completely forgot. It's been so long. Wow. But as we were talking about, you know, real estate, we definitely have to be in tune and at the tempo of our clients too, right? When we're talking about relationships, this really totally ties in. But getting into some of the terms and how we stay connected. And there is a term that's called a CRM, right? A client relationship management system and tools. And that's, you know, businesses even outside of real estate use those to stay in connection with clients or to help clients kind of stay on top of mind, or help us to stay on top of mind of our clients. But here, John L. Scott, and as you are the vice president of Ultimate Client Relationship, UCR, it's a little bit of a different term. Talk to us a little bit about what CRM is and what UCR is and how different those two concepts are.
That's a great question. Thank you. I think first, if the definition of CRM, which there's probably several, but in terms of, like you say, making sure that we're top of mind for those people whom we're trying to make sure that we transact with at some point. Ultimate client relationship, rather than the agent being the center of the universe, which is the concept of most companies or most sales organizations, right? You keep dripping on someone, you keep sending them stuff, you keep calling so they don't forget you. We flip it on its head, and we think about each individual client at the center of the universe, which is a whole lot more work. When you consider if they're at the center of the universe, what's important to them becomes then what's important to us. And the word client, often that word is used in a transactional context. What we do in terms of John L. Scott is client is the name that we give to the people that we are connected to, those we love, appreciate. And sometimes they then become a transaction. But I think one of the biggest differences for John L. Scott, the relationships are not based on transaction. All of us that have been in real estate for any period of time had these raving fans that would have recommended us to a bunch of different people and had yet to transact with us. Most of us have been in this for any kind of length of time. Well, those people are clients, right? They're AAAs, whatever label you want to give to them. They're connectors. So the word client changes for us in that they're the center of the universe. They're what's important. They're who is the most important person. So we do exercises like an activator when I do typically day 2, and we think about one person and we have a series of questions we ask about one person. So let's say it's Steve. I want to know what's important to Steve, and I want to know what's going on in his life and what his favorite sports team or his food or what his hobbies are. Is he a veteran? There's lots of different questions they ask. And the deeper you think about Steve, it's no longer about you, because the whole don't be forgotten or top of mind is all about the salesperson. Well, the reality in life, we are not the center of the universe. The systems that are in place for the industry we're in make us feel like we're the center of the universe because they're pitching us, right? All these vendors and products and coaches. The reality is each individual client is the center of the universe. So then how do you approach that daily? And that's a commitment to daily engaging with a group of people out of that long list. You can't do everyone in a day, but we encourage a daily hour of engagement. And that could take a lot of different forms. But what it does is it forces us as the real estate professional to think about one person at a time, which is extraordinarily hard work. It's way more work than sending everyone the same stuff, right? You all get a calendar, you get whatever you get. When they're the center of the universe, it's a lot more work, but we all know it when we're treated as a number or when we're treated as a human being or a relationship. And so we've taken, and I give kudos to Lennox for the concept, and then we connected those dots. Putting them at the center of each day, I think is the absolute win. Does everyone do this? No, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, not necessarily in terms of work, because an hour a day engagement, all of us can do, right? That's not the issue. It's the work that we have to have the mental gymnastics to put ourselves second or even third or fourth, that we're not the most important person in this relationship. We're not necessarily even the smartest person in this relationship. We may not even know everything about their home. Like, we are not the most important person. So putting someone else as more important than us, that's the work, because that requires humility, vulnerability, grace, compassion, which are not terms that we typically read about when we take our real estate license.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, this is kind of an off question, but I think it's relational to what's going on here, because you're mentioning about UCR and connecting in a different and a better way, more personal way, and really focused in on the individual. And when we typically look at, say, brokerages or companies in general, we hear the term of a vice president, and typically a vice president is ahead of something that is really important to that company. And so we're accustomed to hearing a VP of growth, a VP of finance, a VP of this, a VP of that. How are you the VP of ultimate client relationship? There is no other title like that, is there?
No, in fact, it's federally registered. So we have the little R in a circle because Lennox came up with it. The idea, not the position, but the idea, man, I want to say it's approaching 9 years, something like that. Yeah. And I raised my hand and I actually asked him on a Monday, can we go to lunch? We went to lunch on Monday and I laid out the idea that he's put this in place. I'm like, this needs leadership and direction, connecting the dots. If we're going to be out in front of everyone else pitches technology, that's what everyone pitches. We need to be out in the blue ocean. If anyone's ever read the Blue Ocean Strategy, rather than fighting with all the other people talking about the same thing, and now the water's red with blood of everyone fighting over the same market share or the same audience. We want in the middle of the ocean. Like, we're not going to fight this fight. We're going to be technologically enabled, but we're going to go and do the thing that we know works. And it's not like we created that idea, right? It's the idea of deep relationships and commitment and loyalty is not new. We're just trying to package in a context of how do we show up in the world? How do we show up for the people we love and care about? And it not be a reciprocal led relationship, but the reciprocation happens because of human nature. We love and give, and over time, reciprocation from that consumer, that client, is to recommend us and connect us with people that they love and care about for real estate. It's a long game. It's a long play. This is not instant gratification, which if you're going to have a career, instant gratification can get you only so far. So that's, and then the vice president, I did director for a while, and I said, well, I think we need this. And then he added the digital strategies on the end. Lennox is a thinker, right? Very few of our titles are the typical industrial titles. Language matters.
Yeah, and Lennox being the CEO and the grandson of the original founding John L. Scott. And I think it's amazing. I know Steve's got the next question, but I think it's really amazing, Emmanuel, that you pursued, like you saw, based on your experience and who you are, you saw the value in UCR. And you didn't just want to be a part of UCR. You wanted to take the lead in building this whole program. You've done an amazing job.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that distinguishes us between a lot of other people is the fact that we're not doing what everyone else is doing. Is we're really, really focused in on the client and them and getting to know them personally. So I love that aspect of it. And Emmanuel, one of the things that you did talk about is also a bit which plays in the UCR is a technology aspect. And technology continues to move in a direction that gives consumers, greater and faster access to information. How do you see technology affecting the way that we connect with our clients and the value to the real estate professional?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Really quick anecdote, and then I'll hopefully answer the question. But when I was in college, I went to a music conservatory. So it's even the word, it's a French word, but conservative is where it comes from. So you can't be more conservative than a music conservatory. So you learn the masters, right? It's classical music, Baroque, chamber, Renaissance, all that stuff. So I'm studying very, very specific music, and I also playing in a rock band at night. And I brought a synthesizer to school. So this is mid 80s, and everyone back then, if you studied classical music, was worried that these computers, which all a synthesizer is a computer, was going to take over their jobs, right? So I can now play a flute on a keyboard. Why do I need to hire a flautist to play? I'll just multi-track this whole orchestra. Everyone is panicked that they're going to lose their job. So I'm in Quebec, which is a French-speaking province of Canada and established by the Catholic Church. So Catholicism is not just, it's not even a choice. It's on every corner, right? More Catholic churches than anywhere else in the country. I'm called the Antichrist when I brought this synthesizer to school. It's how dare I bring the guillotine to school and chop off their heads, right? And the reality is this. No one lost their jobs to synthesizers. No one of consequence. There's more recorded music by symphonic orchestras today than in the history of mankind. Now, they're not necessarily being recorded in a symphony hall playing a concerto or a symphony. There's still some of that, but that is much less than it was in the mid 80s. They're on your TV shows. They're in your movie scores. They're in your video games, full symphonic, massive orchestrations. Next year I'm watching TV and you feel the goosebumps of the danger that's coming around the corner. It's music that did that. If you have the power of a raw video, it's music that did that. So it's all how you look at technology. You can look at it as a threat, or you can look at it as an opportunity to look at what you're doing differently. So none of us walk around with pagers any longer. I think that's pretty fair.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, I just got a page. I got to go find a payphone now.
Exactly. Or, so like we all have like not the best. We have a great recording video studio in the palm of our hands. We all do, right? And what the technology can do, I think we get stuck in what is technology, and I don't know the latest, greatest, whatever, fill in the blank. But we're all able to make phone calls from anywhere on the planet. That's weird. Mm-hmm. Like, that's weird. 20 years ago in real estate, you had to sit at a desk to make a phone call. You didn't make a phone call in your car unless you were one of the people that had a brick. Like that just, right? It just, but we get caught up in all the other cool technologies that we get pitched all the time. But you can speak to someone from anywhere on the planet to anywhere else on the planet. So remote working is, I think, one of the biggest part of technologies, and that you could have access to information from anywhere on the planet. So I know there's lots of different real estate techs that everyone says you need to use this, you need to do that. Here's the latest, greatest social media, which I'm a huge fan of, right for the state. But ultimately, the biggest component is that you can connect with human beings in real time from anywhere on the planet. My mother, who's 82, doesn't have a Facebook account because she doesn't want to touch a computer because she breaks it. My father would be angry. It's a whole other thing. I FaceTime with my mother, who's 82. I talk to her on her cell phone. Like, that tells you something. She knows that she can see me via this device and we can have a conversation. You know, there was a time where Dick Tracy, you looked on your phone and there's a face and we thought, that's crazy. That'll never happen. And so I think we get caught up in the real estate technology, but the technologies aid us having a better life and agents being able to do way more work and way more transactions than they could before, right? To do the kind of transaction volume that you can do today versus 30 years ago, you'd have to have several assistants. You would not make the margin that you make today. And this one little device changed the world. And what Steve Jobs did by not putting buttons on it changed the world again. And you could just extrapolate from that. But I think what it helps us do then is to be out in front.
Yeah.
So if we have information, the consumer has information, how can we be out in front? How can we be a narrative to the data and bring information rather than just letting them go and willy-nilly? You know, like there's WebMD. I don't know if any of you have been on WebMD. I've had 3 different kinds of cancer. Guess what? I didn't go to WebMD. I actually went to a professional who had years of study and that can nuance things and ask the right questions. But are there other people who go to WebMD because they have, I don't know, sprained thumb or something that may not require a hospital visit? I don't know. But information just in and of itself without trust is just that. So think of iBuyers, right? That's just, you know, AI the max, right? It's just data. How do we then enter into the conversation to be proactive with our client and not let them live in the wild west of anything goes? Well, they can. And
Emmanuel, you're touching right in on something. First, I mean, normally what I do is whenever I have any ailment, I go to WebMD and then I go to Yahoo Answers to figure out how to fix it. And you know, I could not, when you said you brought a synthesizer in the 80s, I could not get the picture of you with a flock of seagulls hairstyle out of my head for a moment. I think I lost part of what you said.
No, I had big hair. Not as good as my son, but I had good hair at the time. I did.
That's awesome. You know, with what you're talking about out in front, I think that's hugely important because you're right. Everything that we see online is just an amalgamation of information that's spit and spewed by whatever program deems is important here or there, and they're making a lot of assumptions. But one of the things you talk about being out in front is a term that's thrown around a lot. And I think that John L. Scott, that we've got a really good solution, like with the UCR, not only a concept, but there's a whole system and series on how to practice it. That hyper-local expert. So could you expand on that just a touch more?
Sure. So the data that comes in, and you know, Zillow has now entered the marketplace as a brokerage, right? Not just a media company. They will at some point be able to do the kind of things that currently John L. Scott can. So like you mentioned hyper-local expertise. In the offices that you serve and lead, you have lots of different markets. Like even if you think of DuPont, how many markets are in DuPont? 10, 15, right?
As many people as there are.
Right. So your condo market is different than your single family home versus view versus near what water, whatever, right? So the different price points, there's just lots of different markets. So how to really be able to clearly define that for a consumer and demonstrate it, to show it. If we're only going to be talking, that's where trust doesn't happen, right? That's where the typical real estate agent, all they do is talking. If you can show, that makes it more concrete, and ask. And that's where the listening comes in, right? The person with the best questions wins. And all too often in sales, I think we believe the person with all the right answers win. And I think that that's an ego-driven idea. But the person with the best questions allows that person whom they're serving, you're now figuring out really what makes them tick or what's really important to them. Because how many times have we heard Hopefully not anymore, but we used to hear buyers are liars. Do you remember hearing that? And what that meant was they said they wanted this, but they really wanted that. That's not the buyer's fault. That's our fault. Buyers are not liars. Sellers are not liars. We just didn't do a good job at asking the questions to find out what's really going on, because they may or may not know. So there's lots of neuro-linguistic programming questions they could ask, so you get down to nitty-gritty. But our hyperlocal, as an example, our neighborhood campaigns or market insights, the polygon that you draw, every real estate company on a search site can draw a polygon either with the mouse or with your finger. Every company has that. That's not what's special. John L. Scott, now in that polygon, you can change criteria, price points, architecture types, views, the question, you fill in the blank.
Yeah.
You take that data and now you have a report based on the polygon, whatever criteria is inside that. No one, not a single firm in the United States or Canada has that capability at the moment. It'll happen. It'll just happen.
Yeah.
But Zillow, which is one of it's the Kleenex of real estate, they still don't have that capability. But they will soon, because they're now a member of every multiple. So they're going to get all that data. We need to be out in front to be the first proactive point of contact, because our clients are all on Zillow. Every single one of our clients is on Zillow. Every single one. If our agents believe that their clients are not on Zillow, they're ostriches. There's 220 million views per month. You can be positive about one thing in life: taxes, or two things. Taxes, three things: taxes, death, and Zillow.
It's like an old Monty Python sketch.
Sure. Come back here, you coward. So, yeah, I think being out in front and being not in charge of the conversation, but in charge of the questions.
Yeah. And being able to give answer at that the level that they actually care about, not just the national level perspective. And I know Davina has got the next question here.
Yes, Jurgen just keeps interjecting all over the place. Jurgen's keeping us on track. But yeah, so this is good, because as we're talking about tying in with relationships, you're talking about being out in front, and being out in front meaning being out in front of the iBuyers and the technology, like the relationship, the tangible communication and connection with the clients, because then they're going to get the information on Zillow. They're likely to get the inquiries from the iBuyers, but they're going to definitely come back to us, because that's where the relationship is, and they're going to come back and verify. Just had a client the other day, had sold a house to her a few months ago or last year, and she reaches out to me and says, I'm losing value in my home. And I'm like, huh? Like, where are you getting that information from? And she sends me a little shot of an email that she got that had her home value on it. And I said, those are just meant so that you can actually reach out to your real estate pro. And she was like, thank you, pro. Here. And I sent her a CMA. And it had only been a few months, and she saw her value was actually at where it was, or increasing, in the last few months. And she's like, thank you so much. So I was like, wow, this is really important, relationship. Because I was just like, wow, thank God that she knows me and trusts me and came back to me instead of following up with the system that she had. So yeah, this is so good. So thank you so much for doing this. And so as we're talking about relationships, and literally no matter what business you're in, relationships totally is the foundation of a successful business. Everyone wants to feel special, and like they're not just a number or not just a dollar sign. So, brand new, getting into the business, I don't have a client, maybe I don't know a lot of people. We're having all this conversation. There's some people that are just not connecting with this because it's way too big. So what do you say to the new business owner, the new agent that's like, oh, client relationship, I don't have a client. Where do I start? What do I do?
Very, very important question. Thank you. And your story is a great one. Had you not been in relationship, you're right. That person could have, because these iBuyers, they don't have to be Zillow or Open Door. I mean, there's, depending where you live, all the infill stuff that has to happen, right? They're not going to buy at retail. So yeah, I think it's important to be out in front of that conversation, even if the iBuyers nationally aren't in your market, because some of our clients own properties in, let's say, Phoenix or Arizona, Florida, other areas where Nevada, where iBuyers are just buying up stuff. So if they have investment properties, they could be receiving in those other areas where they own. I think it's very important that we make sure that we express to the people we're connected to what the trends are, nationally, statewide, hyper locally. So for those that say they don't have a client, I would say, do they have friends? And they would probably say yes. I remember it was a Tuesday. So I started in real estate. I'd been a music director my whole life. I jumped into real estate, and I was naive enough to not really get that the company wasn't going to give me a bunch of business. I have to go get my business. So I got that on day 2. Maybe it was halfway through day 1. And you have people that you care about. And I think to whomever, it's someone who's been around for 35 years, someone 3 days or 3.5 hours in the business, you have people you care about. What can you do to make sure that you are engaged with them and finding out what's going on with them? The reciprocal nature of human beings will be, oh my gosh, Steve, that's great. You're in real estate. How's the market? Will come up somehow, right? But if I'm checking in with Steve, what's important to Steve, what's important in his life, what's going on with his life, they're going to ask, how's business with you, or whatever that is. And the reality is, a new person can actually have advantages over someone who's been doing this a long time. Have you ever met some bad plumbers? No offense to plumbers, but you've met bad plumbers. Plumber is a professional that gets paid to plumb. Because you're a professional, because you've been doing it a long time, doesn't mean you're good at it. It just means you're older. So a new person is hopefully not going to establish the bad habits right away. So I think as we're leading people who are new, I was new. I was lucky enough. I'm an immigrant, so I had plan A only, which is typical of immigrants. And I'm a son of an immigrant who he too, flew across the Atlantic Ocean to Quebec. He had plan A. So I'm lucky enough that that's in my DNA, but I worked my butt off. And I'm telling you, how I showed up back in the day, suit and tie every day, I'd meet people, FISBOs. I did FISBOs. So if they don't have clients, there's still some FISBOs. They're not a lot. Expireds. There's a lot of people you can talk to, even outside your relationship database. But as you're going through that, it was a Tuesday where I recognized I'm doing the same job with a different checklist. So what's the job that this person did? And how can we connect their unconscious expertise that they're not even conscious of from their previous life and adapt that to this life? Everybody has abilities and skills that they're unconsciously competent about. So as leaders, I think our job is to find out what that is. So let's not work on stuff you already know. Let's just put a mirror to it so that we can then move forward. So if it's listening, if it's service, customer service, if it's the ability to call people on the phone. I mean, there's lots of door knocking. There's just so many options. And if you don't have clients, which I appreciate right now, even people that have been in business a long time, your listings disappear right away, right? Like market share of the days of driving down the street and seeing yard arms from all these companies knowing, oh, that company A has all the market share because all you see is their signs. Those days are gone. Those signs go up and down. You don't even know what's going on in the marketplace. So you don't require listings to build business. On johnscottboost.com, we have an agent ad section. So the housing forecast, housing updates, the buyer and seller guide are amazing pieces in PDF, or you can use Issue, which is like a book online. Searches, the mobile app, buy-side home valuation system. There's, I think, if I can remember, around 10 different tools that you can use to go and attract conversation with homeowners. Yeah. So for us to sit and wait for a phone to ring is never going to work. So it's a question of commitment on that side for the agent. But they have lots of tools or pieces or props in which to have conversation with homeowners. And they say, well, how long have you been in the business? You know what? I just started X amount of time ago. So lucky to be in a company that these three amazing leaders with all this history, we're at the cutting edge of, and then fill in the blank. So they need to practice these scripts, right? I think regardless if you're day 1 in the business or year 45, scripts are the most dialogues. If some people doesn't like the word scripts, I'm a massive believer. Yeah. I think you win in scripts. And scripts is Michael Jordan doing free throws for the extra hour and a half at the end of practice. That's a script. Meryl Streep making sure that her facial expressions, her smilings, her eyebrows, her tone is scripts. Dave Matthews Band, practicing those breaks and those hits is scripts.
Yeah.
Every winner of any excellence on the planet is a master of scripts. And when people run from them, they're running from success, in my opinion. I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, Emmanuel, I'm going to turn this question over to Steve, but one of the things that I think's awesome about that is you're talking about tools and systems and getting all this automation done. But then UCR is, I could say it's the frosting, but it's probably really the cake. All this other stuff is really the frosting. That it doesn't mean anything if you don't have the relationship and if you don't show that you actually care
100%.
About somebody.
100%. And people know when you care and you don't.
Yeah.
The sniff test, all of us. Gary Vaynerchuk wrote a book called The Thank You Economy. And basically everyone's BS radar is finely tuned. But it's happened to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
When someone tells you they care, but you know they don't, your BS radar is finely tuned. You can't say you care. You must show you care.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So, 100%. It's the cake, in my opinion.
Yeah.
People, unfortunately, treat it like the frosting. That's why in Lab Book 1, we have this practice that you do to really hit home that this is not an add-on to CRM. It's almost the opposite. It's almost turning it on its head. Because I no longer is the most important person. That is not an easy thing for us to take on as humans, because that requires vulnerability, humility. Again, words we don't talk about in real estate enough. Love. I don't think we talk enough about love in real estate.
Oh man, you preaching. You preaching.
Yeah. I think love.
Go on, Emmanuel. Go on. Love it.
I know.
Yes, the romantic French guy is talking about love. Yes.
I know. You know, and we're getting close to time, and there's like a number of questions. I think we're just going to have to go to the last question. Because of Emmanuel, you're going to have to come back. Like this is so good. It feels so good.
Well, the conversation is so much bigger than 20 minutes or 30 minutes because it ties in and nothing. There's not a whole lot that's new under the sun, but putting it in a way that people can follow and manage a process. Because I think about like Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's so many things that this is really built atop of, but it's just it's put together like a recipe that's actually enjoyable and delicious and edible, and I can palate it.
You know, it's funny you raise that book. So How to Win Friends and Influence People. I was at 14 when I first conducted Mozart's Andante Allegro. The concertmaster, which is the first violinist, who's kind of like the foreman of the orchestra, or four-person if it was a woman. But they're in charge of the musicians, and then you're in charge of everyone. And he told me to read that book, but he was doing it in a backhanded way because I'm a trombonist and I'm 14. So first of all, I'm a brass player. That's no good. Secondly, I'm 14. I know nothing, which he was right. I knew nothing. But he told me to read that book. I've read it multiple times. And every time I read it, I'm a different person. The book has been updated to be more modernized, but I'm a different person. Here's one of the things that helps, I think, with UCR versus CRM. There's a quote in the book: you can make more friends by listening and becoming friends with people in 6 months than you can in 6 years trying to get them to be friends with you.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's us being proactive to care about other people, to make them be the center, to let them be the most important, to be curious about them, as opposed to having billboards all over the city. Hey, look at me and this is how I do work, and I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. No one believes that crap.
Well, I am wearing a pink shirt today, though, so it's.
I like pink. Well, when I travel to Canada, the city of Edmonton has bus benches, and every single bus bench has a real estate agent. It also snows in Edmonton. And I've asked many people, is that how you chose your real estate agent? No one chooses a real estate agent based on a bus bench. I'm not saying bus benches are unimportant or billboards, but that's the cherry if you're lucky. It's not even the frosting.
Yep. So.
Man.
Wow. Yeah. So good. And we're going to go ahead and get our last question, but just to the nugget here is that it's not rocket science, right?
It's way harder.
Yeah.
No, it's way harder. I have a phrase. It's funny you say that. My phrase is this, trademarked. Relationships are not rocket science. They're way harder. So my son went to UW, and his first major was going to be aeronautical engineering, rocket science. He's a brilliant kid, super smart math kid, 4.0, UW engineering, multiple engineering degrees. He showed me these paragraphs, and it was for flight. And there's lines and numbers and letters. I have no freaking idea what they meant. But once those are solved, they're always solved. right? When you get on a plane, you're confident that they've solved that equation for lift and they have solved the equation for landing. You're pretty confident of that, or else you wouldn't have gone on the plane. There's not a single person on this planet that you treat like the other person, including twins. Rocket science is easy compared to relationships.
Yeah. It's the humanity.
Because it requires humanity and vulnerability and humility, which is not things that we wear easily.
Yeah.
None of us woke up this morning, God, help me be more humble, because we know what that means. But we didn't do an affirmation, I want to be vulnerable and expose all my dark secrets. I'm not saying we go that route, but yeah, relationships are so much more challenging than rocket science. But we always put rocket science or brain surgery up here and everything else down here. But I'm telling you, the most challenging thing in life is relationships.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And the most rewarding.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's hard because, like you said, you have to be vulnerable. I mean, if you want to care about someone, you have to allow yourself to be cared about too.
That's fantastic. And when you hear people say, my client thanked me, or my client did this for me, you get goosebumps, because but that's human nature. Like, that should be actually what we expect because of the reciprocal nature of humanity if we do our part in caring. But this gig, we all too often think, oh my gosh, it's all about me. And that's where I think we get our toes stuck.
You know, Emmanuel, we could probably sit here and talk about, I know I can sit here and talk about this all day long and share stories. But just as we wrap up, what is one thing that you could leave us with that we can take and go some advice? I mean, I know you've dropped a ton of nuggets here, but
I would listen to other voices that might say it differently so that it connects. You know, like, not every person connects with every person. So things like The Carpenter by John Gordon, the book that Jürgen mentioned, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People. Like, I go and study and listen, and the themes are very similar. And maybe what someone else writes or says might just hit it. My favorite book of, not all time, but one of my favorites is The Art of Possibility by Ben and Ruth Zander. I think if you fill yourself with a mindset of a contribution, which is one of our, fundamentals of John Scott, if you fill yourself with that, give it away, come back and fill yourself again. All too often people hoard goodness. I got to keep my goodness. No, fill yourself with goodness, give it away, start again tomorrow. The best way to spend your 86,400 seconds today.
Yeah. Or they don't fill themselves at all, so they've got nothing to give.
Right. Good point. That's a great point. Yeah. You got to fill yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oprah's Soulful Sunday works for me all the time. She talked about selling real estate. If Oprah had a real estate license, we're done. She knows how to ask questions. She really, think about it. She's prepared, but she asks questions. She shows vulnerability, humility. This is one of the most amazing people walking the planet. And she makes that person feel like they're the most important person in the room. She has a gift.
But I think that exemplifies exactly what you're saying about UCR. She's one of the wealthiest in terms of wealth, but also just in terms of relationships and admiration, etc., because she cares. Like, absolutely. She's mastered the ability to do it, and it can be applied to any field, honestly, not just 100%. Real estate.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, we are like it's 9 straight up. Wow, the time flies when we're having fun, for sure. But definitely have it's been very enlightening, and it's really just reinforced the importance of staying out in front, relationships, ultimate client relationship. We didn't even talk about the digital. Well, we talked about some of the digital strategies, talked about some of John L. Scott's, the platforms and the tools that we have, but we didn't even get into all those in detail. So we're gonna have to have you back.
I'll be back. You can be back. Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
And really, truly appreciate you and all that you've done in leading this this UCR revolution within John L. Scott, because it is that important.
It is.
Thank you, guys.
It is. Thank you so much. And next time you're going to have to do it. We'll do it all in French, right?
À bientôt. Au revoir.
See.
All right. Thank you, Emmanuel, for joining in. we have our trivia question that we want to also just love that guy. Just love him, you know?
Yeah. Could talk forever.
Yes. So what is our trivia question?
Trivia question was 88% of clients say that at the end of a transaction, they say that they would use their broker again. But what percent actually do use that broker again?
That's about relationships.
It is absolutely about relationships. So I think we have maybe a few answers in the comment section, but if you guess the answer of, what is the answer? 12%, number A, you would be correct.
That's
if you guess B, C, or D, you're wrong.
That's right.
A is the answer. That's really crazy. Just thinking about, there, even of the options, the highest was 55%, and that's just a little over half. You would think that the number would be higher, but a lot of times what happens is agents and even companies in general, they complete the transaction and then they disappear and they don't follow up, and they don't keep relationship.
Yeah. I was thinking about this as Emmanuel's going on, and even it's one of those lessons that it's hard to, you learn, hopefully you learn it fast, but it leads into the ultimate client relationship marketing, UCR. As I remember when I first started, I felt I was more of a like a hunter, almost a headhunter, just out there looking for the sale. And I did great for my clients. But if you don't have that follow-up, that UCR part of it, you're not going to get that return business that where they're calling you back. So it's really important what they focus in on, what we focus in on with that UCR, the ultimate client relationship, and building that personal that personal connection, the relationship. Huge.
And you know what's actually kind of brilliant about all of this as well is that it's never too late. We're human, we make mistakes, and when we are doing what we do, our whole life revolves around service to other people. And really what we do every single day is we wake up trying to find people to serve. Now, sometimes UCR is, or part of what UCR is really good about, though, is reminding us to reserve the people that we have. But as people start, a lot of times we do make the mistake of kind of forgetting and getting moved on and focusing on who we're immediately serving right now. But I love the fact that it's never too late. It's never too late to reignite a relationship that you've had, or to go back and show somebody that you may have lost touch with that you care. But you do have to be humble and you do have to be vulnerable. But if it's about service, then we'll do what we need to show people that we really do care, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So good. Something that we just need to remember and keep on the top of our minds.
Yes.
Every day.
Yes.
Yep. So, all right. Moving on, just real quick wrap of what's going on. It's actually after 9 o'clock, and we are like way behind.
Just trampling over timelines.
Yes, yeah. Anything today that we that's going on?
Yeah, so got a few things. Upcoming, we have career night next week, Tuesday. So tune into that. If you are interested in getting your real estate license, please go to either our Facebook page and register, or our web page. And register for the career night to find out what you need to get your real estate license. Next thing up is we have our business meeting this Wednesday for our John L. Scott brokers. We also, and that's from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Thank you. We have a guest coming in from Thurston County Title, Chris Lester, who's going to be talking about some tools and a little bit about escrow and title. We also have our Forms Friday at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We'll be going over the listing input sheet. We also have Facebook, or not Facebook, what is it? The market update, talent report market update with Jurgen and Davina at 8 o'clock. It's at 8 o'clock, right, guys? 8 o'clock.
8:30.
8:30. 8:30.
8:30. It's at 8:30.
Yeah.
So Jurgen Devine is bringing you the open houses, new listings, what's going on in the real estate market in our area. Tons of great information, so tune into that.
And Steve, just a real quick pitch on Thurston County Title and Chris Lester coming in on Wednesday. For everyone, it's really an important one to tune into because a lot has been going on for title and escrow through the pandemic. There have been changes in the way people are able to sign, et cetera. And everything that we do continues to evolve in this. So staying connected and in tune to those changes is really important for us to be able to serve people well.
Yep. Totally. Well, as we get to the end of the day, this is it. It's 9:07, and so we are way over time. There are just making sure, just staying tuned, staying plugged in, and keeping relationships at the top of our mind. And we have a couple of words that we end with that are exemplary of that as well. Jurgen, you mentioned, be humble. The word that came in today a lot was be vulnerable. Getting outside of ourselves, like relationships are, as Emmanuel mentioned, relationships are harder than rocket science because we're dealing with humanity and everyone's different and the needs are different and we need to listen and we need to be in tune. This has just been really good today. There are 86,400 seconds in a day, and we have a new moment, a new day, every day, and every moment to do something to get outside of our own bubble, to get outside of ourselves. So what are we going to do? We're going to end with a big be bold, meaning let's do this today. Let's do something different than what we normally do.
Yeah.
So
make a step to get you outside your comfort zone. Let that comfort zone grow a little bit today.
Making a bold move. All right. Who wants to take us out?
Go ahead, Steve. You can do it. You could do it.
I can do it. Yes. All right, guys. 1, 2, 3. Be bold. Thanks again.
Have a great week.
We'll do this again Monday.